Folks, welcome on back with volume this time on YouTube. Hopefully, welcome on back for another fantastic edition of our weekly workshop, Traders Talk. Shout out to Leda, a little casual Tuesday edition of Traders Talk, perhaps. If you could see my shirt on YouTube, at least. My student Leda sent me this shirt a long while back. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, maybe. A little Margaritaville, a little Jimmy Buffett shout out there. But thank you to her, and great to see all of our students. Otherwise, in our main trading room, we have Brian Randall joining us here, one of our new trial members. He actually says here, great to have Randall. He says actually right out the gate, great session with Ryan Faluna last week. Josh here live for the first time today. Oh, I appreciate that, Randall. Thank you so much, Randy and Lynn. So there you go. Thank you so much, Randy, and I hope you and Lynn enjoy, and all of our new trial members on top. So thank you. That just made my day, actually. But great to see Randy and Jeff, Brian, Kathleen, Wendy, William, Lawrence, Irving, Sam, and the whole house here, at least joining us inside our live trading room. So how about this out the gate? Let's actually combine Benzinga with what we teach here at CTU, and that being following the smart money. Obviously on the screen right now, you see the stock shop. Hey, everyone has their own cup of tea, right? Not everyone trades an expensive stock. Not everyone trades options. And first and foremost, let me hit the pause button there. Fausto and myself, really Fausto, he hammers this home. Our cardinal rule here is to be a good options trader, you got to be a good stock trader. So that's where we just say, hey, basically this stock is moving right now in front of our face. I am in this trade right now on some option calls, but mainly why were we focused on this stock? When did we first focus on this stock? What news came out? And basically more or less the levels that we could have anticipated on a trade like this. And not just a trade like Shopify, but certainly a few others. Silo we ended up looking at earlier today. That was the only stock trade that I took actually from today. That was a -2, and it was actually a really good loss in the grand scheme of things. But just a few other stocks. If you wanted me to go over a few different trades, Gene, I see here, first time joining us, and among him, our students as well. Just let me know here in chat. I'll just type my email here as well for all of us joining us live. I'll copy paste for YouTube as well. But josh@ctutrading.com, that's my email address. We do this workshop each and every Tuesday morning. So for all of us on YouTube right now, let me just post this right here. And Leda, there we go. I told her to join YouTube actually, so she could see. It's not catching the design, at least, Leda, but little Jimmy Buffett, right? You sent me this a little while back. Need to hear the Margaritaville again. I don't know if we'll get blacklisted for lack of copyright here later, but give me a sec. I'll load a little Margaritaville. We'll do an outro with Margaritaville. How about that as we finish up Traders Talk today? I got that loaded already. How about that? So Shopify, it's moving on up right now. Why is this stock moving up? Where is this going to hit resistance? Everything else in between. Let's actually just get to that actually for the time being. It looks like the market's moving up pretty nicely for right now, but Shopify came out with news earlier today. Live right now, I want to go right to level 4. Give me a quick second here. I'm just going to delete all my crazy lines here and I'll show you. So for all of our students, actually, why don't you answer for me? For Kathleen, Brian, William, Wendy, Lawrence, where do we see resistance here on this screen? On the heat map program that I'm showing, where do we have resistance on Shopify? Jeffrey says he's got his shaker of salt ready to go there in our trading room. Perfect. Brian, Daniel, Wendy, Rhonda, Barbara, Irving, Randy, got Michael. There we go. And all of us otherwise, Jeff, 70, right? That's been out there since the market opened up. And if you even zoom back, that's been out there since what? The crack of dawn, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not as big then as it was now. It's about 4 times the size as it was in pre-market. About 8,800 shares early on in the morning. It was out there since 4 a.m. Well, right now it's about 32,000. Resistance is still resistance, though. Volume is always relative. So where you end up seeing that in pre-market, that clearly is going to be your resistance, at least throughout the remainder of the day today. Doesn't guarantee it's going to move up, though. So how could we ensure a clean entry on this trade? It's still not a guarantee it's going to run, but how could we ensure a clean entry based off of going with upward momentum? Well, hey, in pre-market, it's easy to say. If you bought here and held on, you could have been killing it. That's not what we accomplish here in Traders Talk, folks, right? For any of us that have been with us for a little while now, Sam, Wendy, Rhonda, Lawrence, Barbara, Irving, right? We go through the same motions, the same steps each and every week here. And the reason that we go through it so frequent is because we do it when we trade. So we want you to kind of follow through in the same footsteps, basically. I may look to take some of my position out actually here coming up the closer this gets to 70. I will say, I think personally, there's a good chance this continues to move up even more throughout the afternoon. So We will see if I'm right with that or not. That's a little calculated risk. But to begin, we had that as resistance in pre market. And truth be told, like, hey, it popped at first and there was news off of it. But what's the trend of this stock before the market opened up? Like the 30 minutes, the hour before the market opened up, from 8:30 to 9:30, right? From 9 o'clock to 9:30. This thing's flat. It's not really showing that great upward momentum for the final hour prior to the market opening up. So that's not really too incentivizing for me. That doesn't really give me like proper clearance. I was interested in it, but I was interested in other stocks. We had this on our watch list, but we had other stocks on our watch list. So at least from here, where could I have prepped up? Where were there, good levels? Where could I have used for a clean entry on this trade, perhaps? Well, we had 70 as resistance, at least here. 8,600, 8,800 shares, like we said. So when I look at like this line at 68, that's not really too big. I'm not really looking at that and calling that a huge resistance. That's not really too imposing to me. Is there a price though that we see like more volume traded compared to other price levels? Is there a price here that shows a big level, big volume perhaps? What do we got? If you were with us in the phase one stock course back in June, a few weeks back, we did our whole introductory to bookmap, introductory to level 4 based class. And that's where we covered pretty much all of this, right? Sure, remove one of these, but you see what I'm doing, right? Got Michael and Jeffrey saying 67.60, $67.60. You're looking at that spike right there, right? That spike from the CVP column. Granted, that is consolidation. That's all from consolidation. I don't think that's from one big print per se, but clearly that becomes a big level before the market opens. So that's at the price 67.60. We plot there. That's fine. Now, just for reference, actually, how about this? Just for reference, just to add on top of that, we do this again mainly in our classes, but a little extra here. Uh, how many shares is that? How many shares were filled at that price, at that area? That's about 62,000 shares, right? 62,000. And actually, under that is about 22,000. So 62 plus 22, that's 84. So there's like a lot of volume filled there. Clearly, if we're calling 70 this a big level. And right now, if there's about 34,000 shares at this price live currently, then hey, you tell me. Like, why don't you tell me exactly how important this is then? In pre market hours, nonetheless. In pre market hours, 62,000 shares that were filled. So that's why I focus on that CVP. Oh, what I just did there. That's why I focus on that CVP area so much, especially if there's a more distinct spike like that. If it was like more of like a plateau, flat little mound there, I wouldn't have been as interested. But otherwise, though, that's a good level. Now let's jump to our daily chart, though, because this is still shaking around a bit. But let's see, where do we have a clear level to work with? Looking at the daily chart here, looks like this was a good support right here. It had a huge gap, so that's a nice gap fill opportunity. And then it looks like it hit resistance, like kind of right there, right? That looks pretty clean. Now, mind you, that's pretty much right at that 68 area, isn't it? Right? That's pretty much right at 68, 68.17, perhaps right there. Those are more just, historical levels taken from the long-term chart, from the daily chart, weekly chart, etc. So, they're kind of used together. It's not like one stronger than the other. I would just say pretty much if it gets above the top line, perhaps you have a better chance of a run. So that's right there. We have our 67.60. There we go. Now, lastly, I'm just going to plot this here for right now. The opening bell print by the time the market opened up. Yes, this is the last level that you do want to take the time to plot. You wait the first 5 minutes, and pretty much right out the gate, you're going to see a big green or red dot that pops up on this heat map. Again, I take a lot of time to cover this in our classes. This represents nearly 200,000 shares that were filled instantly out the gate at 67.08. So, just for right now, plot me a line at 67.08. think that you see what I see right there pretty much, right? How that became ultimately the bottom here at this point. But otherwise, though, what I was looking for was the break over this here to begin my day. It ended up making a nice pop above that, and I was looking for that resistance to get flipped into into support. Yeah, load up my options trading platform here. I want to see, can I get my yeah, I can get the times of my entries here on this for Shopify. Give me a moment here. I gotta like stretch this crap out. Give me a second here. I'm on my other monitor. So I took a few entries on this just to like average in. My first entry was at 9:43, then at like 10:10, then at 10:23. So let me just pull this up. More or less, basically, this ended up making a good pop out the gate, and I was looking for that resistance to get flipped into support. So my first entry on this was right at 9:43 and 43 seconds. So it doesn't get much better at that, really, as it pulls down to this. There was like a smaller order on the bid, perhaps. I was looking for that to attribute to being support. Just seeing if I can get the first part of my entry off there. I was going to look to average down if I needed to, but otherwise, this ended up making a pretty good reaction, to begin. Well, it pulled back and then I ended up adding more. So this was a little bit later on at 10:10 in the morning and then at 10:23. Basically in this area, I was looking for this to build the higher low, right? Um, it's easy to tell you what happened afterwards. It's easy to say, "Oh, the cookie crumbled well here." Yeah, no crap. If this ended up pulling back here again, though, I would have taken the loss. I would have been out because I took the $68 calls. I needed this to run up. So I was expecting it to. I was not just hoping. I had intelligible strategy and I was looking for it too. So I had a plan in case if it failed. But nonetheless, it built the higher low right here. That's that pre-market CVP level and broke out pretty nicely. So now at this point, if we're looking kind of long term, it's over my historical area. It's over that 68 even. What do we have next on this trade? you know, because otherwise there's a pretty strong gap in which this could try and fill. If anyone's familiar with Shopify, they're e-commerce based company. You get a lot of big celebrities that are part of their ambassadorship, so they're very well known. So to see this down as much as it is from May, it was a little surprising. I was looking for a bounce on this over time, like as like a sideless thought, kind of back end loose thought there. So it popped up today. There was news that came out with like an upgrade. Some firm gave a price target. That's fine by me. All right, nice. If it has a good trend, if it's moving before the market opens up, I'll plan it out, right? And that's what I did. So at this point now, since this has moved above my like historical area, that 68, why not think that this has a better chance to try and get back up towards where it was trading back at the end of April, around here? Not to say that's full clearance, because even ahead, you got 70 as your next resistance. Literally, that's your next one ahead. If you want to focus on like the $5 incrementals, I'm sure 75 would be a huge point of interest on this trade long term over time. So we're not, out of the woods just yet as far as expecting this to fly all the way up to 76 and change, right? But at this stage now, especially for the afternoon session coming up, unless if there's like a huge red flag that came out of nowhere, which there isn't really here, I feel like there is better chance for this to try and get up to 70 again. I feel like we're going to try and see this order get tested and then, go from that point, right? That's the risk I am running. That's the calculated risk I'm running while I'm in this trade. So, at least for the time being, let me just plot some levels now. I had my 68.17. That was my historical. I certainly hope it doesn't drop that low for my sake. Really, at this point, I would just more or less want this peak here to get flipped into support. Popped up well, pulled back. It was resistance a little bit there as like far as like a chart level goes. And otherwise, this isn't like big. This is not as big as what's ahead of 70, but maybe like 69 can be used as like a complementary level to this peak that we had. So that's kind of what I'm loosely looking for at this point going forward on Shopify. And hey, if you follow us going into the afternoon meeting, at least this afternoon at 2:30 Eastern time, join us inside our live trading room for that. But we'll have the chance to go over this. We'll update you there later. I got to take a comment off that. I forgot to do that there later. So there you go, at least. But otherwise, if you're interested in joining us inside our live trading room, I'll post that QR code popping up right there. Bingo. Excellent. So there you go. But otherwise, at least we'll see if this could hold as support. If anyone has any questions on Shopify, let me know there too inside our live trading room, or Sam saying, does it matter whether the opening bell print is green or red? Ideally, you don't focus on the color at first, but otherwise, if you're looking for a move up, yes, you think of green as buying initially, but for me, I was just more focused on the news and the movement, at least initially before the market opened. So with the pop up, resistance got flipped. It's the reaction after. Did this sink? No, it popped. So once it pops and runs really strong, that's where you're hoping for resistance to get flipped into support. It did, moved up. But otherwise, so I'll take a lot more time in the phase two class. Two. There we go on my webcam. Two. Phase two stock course right there to go over that at least. But yeah, otherwise, to me, it doesn't matter as much the color at first, but then you want to factor it in later on if it's not going to make that expected run. I had a question that came in at least before Traders Talk started. Give me a quick sec here. I think this was from Ramesh. I may have answered it here on Shopify to a degree, but we're going to go over other stocks, obviously. So, Ramesh asking here, it would be great if you can cover the following. The various steps that needs to be followed, frog in my throat there, just before pulling the trigger to get in. Candle formations, technicals, level 2, time and sales, level 4, etc. The sequence of events that needs to be followed as an organized whole, blah, blah, blah. So more or less, I did cover that really well as Shopify. I did. But and I will go over other examples here too. I can't stress this enough, and I don't mean to sound like an asshole just saying this. We take so much time in our curriculum, even coming up just on Friday this week. We started yesterday in phase one. We're going to continue later on this week and on Friday to continue that discussion, at least about the basics of as far as being process oriented, being step by step, right? It's not just looking at a stock and just jumping in because of news. If we did that every time, we wouldn't be here. We would be bankrupt, basically. We'd have our accounts blown up. So there's more to it than just that. And Ramesh knows that, obviously. But, as far as Traders Talk here, I can give you a quick glimpse. We go through the process relatively quick here. But otherwise, in our main curriculum, we got 60-minute classes. It's a 12-class curriculum. We do it a few times across the calendar year. So that gives you a much greater ability to dig into time and sales level 4. I'll use the VWAP here and there. I don't focus on that as much as I would on level 4. Candle formations, I don't really look at as much as far as the bodies, the wicks, the single candle patterns. I focus on key chart levels. So even here, like we were just saying, 68, 80-ish roughly, that was a strong chart level, at least from earlier this morning, that we're hoping to see become support coming up. But I'm not just determining that off of just one singular candle on the 1-minute chart. I'm not just focused on one candle for a single candle pattern. It's a matter of consistency. So that's what I'll say there with the candle formation, the chart levels that you may see over time. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. This is water though. So just keep that in mind. But at least otherwise for Ramesh, let me know if you have any follow-ups in regards to that. I can go over other stocks, of course. So let's go over a trade that did not work out for me. We'll go over others too. It's not just about me here. It's about what you traded as well. So, if there's other stocks that you wanted me to go over, Mara, we'll look at the miners, meaning the Bitcoin mining stocks. We'll do that too. But Silo was also on our morning watch list, wasn't it? It was on the pre-market watch list. It was number 1 I put there. Fausto put it number 2 on the morning watch list there. So we had great interest in this stock, right? This stock was moving pretty well before the market opened up. Granted, it was kind of flat the hour before the open. That's kind of the same as Shopify. Maybe you could say double top here pretty much, pulling back a little bit. It still hasn't broken a lower low, so it's relatively flat, meaning it's not terrible. The thing moved up early in the morning. It's coming off good news. It's looking okay still. So a lot of us were interested in this trade, myself included. I said, I was looking at Shopify this morning, but I was looking at other stocks. So here's a good example, Sam, if I could kind of answer your question again with the opening print briefly. This will just be a quick one though, but this is where I entered. 226, I got in right off of 226.27 was my entry price. It was off the opening print, 147,000 shares that got filled there. So, there was an iceberg on the buy side there that popped up suddenly. So we're ooh, okay, maybe this could finally pop here and make a good run. We had resistance, some at 255. Maybe this could run up as high as 3. It's just to say, at least by the time this ended up showing this order out there, it moved up above the opening print. I took the entry right away or relatively quick afterwards. And from that point, it pulled back. So if you're looking at this the right way, as you see, I broke my rule. I did take this trade in the first 5 minutes. But otherwise, once this failed to make that big pop and run, I set my stop, right? I got out at 25, took a -2 of all things. Uh, I call that going par on the hole there if you're playing golf. What is it? Maybe like a +1, or that's a par. Otherwise, that's a damn good trade, because look what happened afterwards. It completely tanked. I was hopeful for this to try and make that higher high and like even get halted at some point. But you know what? If it's not going to make that higher high, let alone hold above this as support, if it's not even going to do that of all things, then more often than not, it's going to make a big move shortly afterwards. So it took a little bit longer for it to make that more decisive lower low. It was like making me waste my time here after, because I was just watching it. I was like, shit, is this really going to pop now? Is this going to make the higher high? Because I was like trying to prep up. I was going to think about taking the entry again, but it pulled back. I said, okay, let's just wait. Let's wait. And it still made me waste a little bit of time here. So, I wasn't on other stocks that Fausto was calling out, because this was making me waste time. And then finally it tanked. I'm like, all right, finally, we're moving on from that thing, right? And Sam, you know what? To answer that, the opening bell print there is red, right? So you know what? If it's not going to hold above this, if it's going to break back under this, we're seeing more selling pressure then, right? This is already selling pressure in theory, red. So once it breaks under that, that's a red flag. That's not good. And then look what happened after. So that was like the best trade of my morning there, otherwise. Right? Up, right down to my area here. And let's see what happens. See if this area in general, it's not going to be perfect, I don't think, but we'll see if this area in general could be support on Shopify. There's not much on the buy side. That's the issue for this trade. So, if you're looking for support to build, it might take a number of minutes. It might take, up until 12 o'clock perhaps, but there's not much on the bid. 1,400 shares, that is. That's it. 1,600 shares, that is. That's it. That's nothing. Actually, there's another trade that I didn't take. I didn't trade this here today, but I was thinking about it. Oh, it's going back up, actually. Rumble. All right. So Rumble is moving up pretty nicely earlier here in our morning session, and it was looking for a pop. I think it was pretty much right at this point, because we were kind of saying to watch out at the time. There was nothing on the bid here at this point, right? You don't really see that iceberg order out there until all the way down below here at 665, about 26, 27,000 shares. So, if you want support to hold, it's got to be off of this chart level. This was resistance. It's off the whole number at 7. That makes sense. Well, once it pulls back, it's got to hold. If it's not going to hold and chops under it there, don't be surprised, because there's nothing really showing for it underneath. So, I guess it bounced back up here suddenly, but that's where otherwise you got to watch out for the same thing to happen on where are we at? Shopify. So hopefully an order on the bid could pop up here suddenly that can get this to make the bounce back up towards 70 resistance. That's what I'm looking for. All right. CIFR, this is a good setup right now. So this, I'm also in on some option calls. I took this earlier here. I guess it tried making the move up before, but then it failed. So I'm still in this one right now, actually. So again, this is option calls, but I took this trade off the break over 650, looking for that squeeze, looking for that higher high. I think that we have resistance up top here at 688, $7. What is that? 693. Ooh, there's more at 693 and 688 than there is at 7. Look at that. Wow. Okay. So where you normally assume that orange or yellowish, reddish line, whatever, to be at 7. Folks, if we have a plan ahead here on the CIFR that I'd called out, I would say to watch out here. Not at 7. You clearly have more demand to sell at 688 and at 693, at least there. So, if this ends up holding above my 653 line here at this point, I think there's a good chance for this to make that move up. But that's where you got to be careful if this holds underneath it here. You see lower high potentially kicking in. So, you got to be careful, at least myself as well in this trade too. Seeing here. All right. So, folks, hey, let me know if you have any other questions. We may cut this one a little short here, at least for right now. If you don't have any other stocks for me to go over, or just trades otherwise for me to kind of look at here, right? We looked at the Silo stock, the Rumble trade, at least we poked at briefly if you want to focus on that live. There's not much out there on the order book as far as support. We have that 719 resistance right there. That should be some resistance for the time being. It poked there earlier and pulled back, and you still have about 28, 17,000 on top of that as well. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit of a level. Markets right now dragging back down a little bit altogether. So if you're just focused on the SPY, ended up leading to a bit of a pullback here. So be careful here coming up. Want to see it get back above past chart resistance here, just briefly to be support. So the fact that we're underneath that there, that's not too nice, not too good. Dow beginning to finally pull back right now. So Dow is a lot stronger today than the SPY was, but seems like the markets are pulling back kind of universally, collectively for the time being. So that's where even this, it's going to be tough for this to swim upstream and for this to really hold that higher low from this point. The whole markets are pulling back. All right. So actually, this might be a good idea for me to close out, take the money on some of those option calls. Want to keep in on some, but I'm going to close out on some, take the money and run a little bit. I was in at 113. I got at 157 on just a fraction of them. I took some out, not all of it, but from Randy here in chat, he's saying, how many daily watch list prints are there every day? 2, 3? Meaning like just in total, Randy, like the number of lists that we just post every day, you mean? Yeah, pretty much 3. We do one in the morning, or we do one in pre-market, which is out by 7:50 Eastern time, pretty much 7:45, 7:50 Eastern time. Give you a little bit before the 8 o'clock move. If it's like a completely slow morning out there, though, otherwise we're probably getting closer to 8. That's more rare, though. Then at that point, the morning watch list, Fausto typically is on to do the morning meeting. He does that at 9 a.m. Eastern, so we'll post that shortly afterwards from there. And then I'm on the mic at 2:30 just to do the afternoon meeting. So new list taking you going into the market close. So 3 lists in total, and myself and Fausto are the lead instructors here. Of course, Fausto, of course, the real lead instructor, the owner of the company, obviously been doing this for 35 years. But otherwise, myself, just to give you a bit further insight with myself, at least, I've been working with Fausto for nearly 10 years at this point. I came from like a real estate background. I didn't know diddly squat about the market, zero. I never watched The Big Short until I was first hired here. He made me watch The Big Short, so took care of that right away within the first month. And at that point, at least from there, I just kind of became entrenched with everything that was going on in the trading room, everything that was being taught in the classes. I shoot straight. I talk truth here, folks. I was a sales rep for him. I was a sales rep for Fausto selling the damn classes, and I became just in love with trading. I became so in love with this, just to do this every day. Not every day is going to be a good day. Not every day is going to be a winning day. You got to make sure you put your seatbelt on before you start your car, much like we always, at least teach in class, right? That's why I say it so frequent. I've been there. I've done that. I've gotten my ass handed to me on trades. I have stories to tell. I have scars to show. Literally, I got an ugly face. So if you're watching me on YouTube right now, yeah, I apologize now. Just to say at least that you have to be process oriented in order to be a great trader here. And if I wasn't that prior to joining CTU, then I wouldn't be here today. But otherwise, just being in love with this, it takes you to the next level. Honestly, that's where level 4 now, as we nickname it, level 4, the heat map program, it provides so much visibility for you that, it gives you a great studying tool to work off of, right? It gives you a pretty powerful studying tool for you to utilize, just realizing why a stock is moving the way it is. Here's the silo trade again that we're talking about. So otherwise, that's where you can fall in love with this. And the more that you do and don't focus on the making money part, you're focused on the protecting money part, it's going to really take you, further with us here over time. Randy says, not the Lambo guy. That's good. Yeah, there we go. That's exactly it. Right. I think that's how Fausto phrased it just recently in one of his webinars. It's true. And no offense to anyone that's got a Lambo, and anyone that's got a Lambo or a McLaren, a Porsche, I commend you. I do wish I had that. I got a Alfa Romeo. So, I get looked down upon when I go to my car dealership to get my oil change. I see the Maseratis there. I see the McLaren here in St. Pete. Holy smokes. I feel small. So, yeah, that's a separate conversation, but remain humble in the grand scheme of it all, right? All right. So, hey, folks, I think for right now, we may finish up. We don't have any other further comments or questions that come in, at least for the time being. Looking at the markets otherwise, just a bit of a pullback now, pulled back below this past resistance. So that's not too clean. Want to see it spike back above there sooner than later. Certainly, Shopify is not going to move as well if the markets keep pulling back a bit. But, who knows? This might look to pull back up above this area. If it does, then we're in great shape. Even right now, we're still in fair shape because as long as we hold above that 68.18, 68.17 historical, then, that's kind of my line in the sand. As long as we get back above here, though, I'll feel really good. All right. So, hey, otherwise, if you're on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc., Leda, one more time, I'll post your comment right here. I appreciate you joining in alongside Leda, all of our new members joining us here. Otherwise, if you're new to our stream at Cyber Trading U, just make sure to follow us there above all things. Leda says Josh speaks the truth, except he's not ugly. I appreciate you saying that, Leda. You're probably one of few that say that. But otherwise, at Cyber Trading U, make sure to hit the follow, subscribe button right there. If you've already done so, if you want to continue the conversation, at least we'll be there at 2:30 Eastern, at least inside our live trading room for that matter. So scan the QR code if you're looking to join on board, if you're looking to join us for a week-long trial inside our live trading room. And we look forward to having you there. We look forward to continue the discussion, having you a part of our team with all of our students there right now. Actually, how about this before I part ways? How about this? I'll show the trading room here briefly. Why not? Right. A little different layout. Obviously, I got like different view as instructor and all that good stuff. But otherwise, you could see here. You got Randy here. You got Jeff, Michael. Chuck says buy a Ford, American. Hey. I like that. Good idea, Chuck. I like that. So with that in mind, folks, we'll be back at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time later on this afternoon, just for the afternoon meeting, and we will go from there. I'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.